Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and since I couldn't find a lot of fruits in the city of Sibu in Sarawak in Malaysian Borneo, I decided to check out Bukit Lima Forest Reserve. Well, Bukit Lima Forest Reserve is a piece of peat swamp forest, which was basically engulfed by the city, but put under protection, so at least I hope they are not gonna build over it. Well, pretty sure it's all secondary forest. Yeah, it looks like everything here has been locked already. But yeah, birds seem to be the highlights of the area, and birds, they don't care so much about the quality of the forest. Yeah, sorry to tell you that, folks, but that's what the ornithologists say. Exotic trees, why cut them down? The birds don't care. A tree is a big stick that keeps the birds and the nests out of reach of ground predators. So yeah, for the birds, this seems to be cool. Let's see how it is for the fruits. Yeah, for now I can definitely say, oh, is there a squirrel here? Okay, couldn't catch it. Can definitely say that this is secondary, very poor in plant species. However, they are planting stuff. Looks like you can donate the stuff. And I guess they are planting, I hope they are planting what has grown here originally. Here is the kangaroo grape or lacum, but no fruits. Some Chinese music playing in the background. I wonder if it's a private house, a Chinese temple, or a Chinese festival. We have Chinese New Year, by the way. Happy Chinese New Year. Here a breadfruit tree, or maybe some other artocarpus. Correct me if I'm wrong. Here some more lacum berries. Yeah, extremely poor in species compared to a natural rainforest. Here is the fruit of those trees which I see everywhere. It's kind of a monoculture. I wonder if this is the result of reforestation or if they just grow here after the area was locked. Also another interesting thing, I would like to dig into their soil here, because while I was driving here in the cab, I saw a small garden with black soil that looked incredibly fertile. I've never seen anything like this in Borneo. I mean, yeah, if they use the right chemicals to decompose the peat, and I think the right chemicals would be maybe a little bit of lime, they could end up with such a black soil, but it's still very unusual for tropical conditions. So, let's explore on. Here a remnant of the original forest which was locked. If this is balian or ironwood, it could be decades old and still decomposing. And if you look closely, you see more of those humps. Here is one. This one they probably cut so high because of the buttresses. They were too lazy to cut the buttresses, so they cut it above the buttresses. Here is another huge stump. So yeah, a confirmation that there was once a peat swamp forest with big trees and huge biodiversity here. Orangutans, crocodiles, giant pythons, the whole works. Here are the kangaroo grape berries. Different stages of ripeness, different colors. Here is something. It looks a lot like beauty berry. Feels and tastes also a lot like beauty berry. Most of those ferns are also eaten by the locals as a vegetable. And the Singapore rhododendron over there with the pink flowers is not only beautiful, it has tasty edible fruits, and you can use the branches or the roots as an antiseptic. I use them for my teeth if I get toothache. Well, the Singapore rhododendron is in the Melastomataceae, as far as I remember. And down here we have another Melastomataceae. They should have hairy blue berries, but I don't see them. I just see young plants down there. Probably the sun around here is too much for it. Not even the Singapore rhododendron or kemonting is in season. Not even a single ripe fruit to demonstrate how to eat them. Here are the unripe ones, by the way. Yeah, the only ripe fruit I saw were the couple lacum berries, and those you don't eat them because of the high oxalate content. You actually make them into sauces because the oxalate is being destroyed by heat. Well, forest reserve my foot. There is no real forest here, just this poor secondary stuff. But as I said, it's still better than putting a city on top of it. And the birds and other animals, they don't care so much about the biodiversity. They care more about the structures. There is vegetation here, there are trees here. There is not too much human intervention. So for them, it's fine. That's why also in Europe, especially in Germany, there are so many smaller nature reserves which are made for birds. There is nothing else interesting there, a bit of water and a bit of forest. But the birds appreciate it. They don't care about the quality of the water or the forest. But for a fruit forager like me, this is also very meager pickings. Now let's look here. A waterway coming out of the city, pitch black, but still quite clear. Yeah, a lot of water plants. A lot of those are being used as a vegetable. Yeah, lots of undecomposed plant matter in the river banks. That means a lot of nutrients, but those nutrients cannot be fully utilized by plants as long as the area is flooded. Yeah, when it dries out, it can make good quality soil. So yeah, if you dry this area and put lime on it and maybe a couple other things like fertilizer, I guess you can end up with black soil. What about those little fruits here? Can you eat them? I've seen something similar, but it was reddish pinkish. Yeah, kind of turning reddish pinkish. Still, as far as I remember, they were not really edible. This wild fig has edible fruits. I forgot the name. On the way there was a big one with ripe fruits, but here those are still completely unripe. Very low biodiversity here, folks, in the plants. In stark contrast to the biodiversity of an original jungle. That's the thing. If you destroy a tropical rainforest, yeah, a new forest will grow pretty fast as long as you don't destroy it again and again. At some time the soil will be so poor that nothing will grow. But this new forest will be nothing like the old rainforest. No matter if you do reforestation, it's the worst thing you can do, except if you do the reforestation with useful trees. That's why people do reforestation not for the forest but for themselves. That's a big secret. Now it's out. So no matter if you do reforestation or if you let it recover itself, here apparently they didn't leave enough pockets of original vegetation, or it was not able to spread and recover the area fast enough. Yeah, look at this. Still this monoculture of this stupid tree everywhere around here. I think it's being used for timber. Here we have some mangrove tree. Don't even know which one it is. I can only recognize the mangrove apple, which seems to have several different species, because I saw it with two very different types of leaves. But yeah, I think I've seen here how much? 10, 15 species of flowering plants, 5 of which are totally dominating. Well, let's say not flowering plants, but plants in general, because the ferns are also very dominating. This is pitiful compared to the original biodiversity. As I said, I'm glad they made this a reserve. But they made this a reserve only after they absolutely destroyed it. And I haven't put a single fruit in my mouth here yet. Well, there was nothing that would have tempted me even in the least. Now I'm on a high observation tower, maybe 15 meters above ground. Always use those to get your bearings and to see where you can forage for stuff. Of course, even the boardwalk though then is an elevated observation platform. Imagine you would have to walk through this area without a boardwalk, chopping your way through the ferns and bushes, wading through mud. How you gonna cross this thing? Yeah, I've crossed such things by wading or swimming, but usually you come out on the other side completely black. This seems to be a drainage ditch, by the way. Actually, if you want to restore some sort of peat swamp forest, you should plug this. Look at it, it's completely straight, probably draining some part of the city. Well, what else can we see here? This is where we came, well, this is where I came from. Everything is low, everything is secondary, everything is basically a monoculture. The area I'm going to looks a bit more interesting. There are single tall trees around here. Why were they left standing? There could be different reasons. Legal requirements, maybe the timber was not valuable enough, maybe they were too valuable as fruit trees or culturally for the local people, or maybe whatever. Maybe it's just that they didn't finish logging the area. So yeah, seems like it's gonna get more interesting ahead. Well, I arrived in the area with the tall trees. Bit more biodiversity here, but you cannot just magic the fruit season, right? Not a single fruit to be seen. But there are boardwalks for miles and miles ahead. Let's see how far I'll go. So here I'm in a fragment where the original peat swamp forest is kind of preserved. The trees basically growing on stilts. Don't know if it was originally like this, if they grow originally on stilts to stay out of the water. It's not that the trees don't like water, it's when an area is flooded for weeks or months, the decomposition in the soil is using up all the oxygen in the soil. So if those trees during flooding stood with their roots inside the water, that's okay, but staying with the roots inside the ground would kill them. So they might have grown on stilts originally, or the decomposition might have set in after they started draining this area, and actually the water might have been much higher before. Here we have again a couple of the old trees. Well, they seem to have grown down there, so this seems to have been the original water/soil level. Here some trees are growing on old stumps. That could also be a reason why those are so high, that they are growing on old stumps. This happens a lot in rainy or shady areas, not just in the rainforest. It also happens in the Alps, where you have forests with high competition and high humidity. A fallen tree, even if it's 3 or 4 meters in the air, will be the breeding ground for new trees. So yeah, kind of biodiverse here, but still no fruits. Belummusin is maybe the most important phrase I learned during this trip. Not ripe yet. Had to say it 100 times a day for the last month. Here this little tree with those small black fruits. Too lazy to try them now. Last weeks I've been mostly trying small inedible fruits, small inedible jungle fruits, and stuff like new banana varieties and things. I want new big juicy things, new jungle mangoes, new durians, new Artocarpus species to try. Not that kind of... well, this could actually be some sort of jungle durian here. Well, No, no durian. The underside of the leaves has this durian color, but the inflorescences, they actually look rather like melinjo, which is another interesting fruit around here. But nothing harvestable right now. Yeah, getting more biodiverse, but not more fruity. The big black ball over there is a termite's nest. Of course, they have to stay off the ground or they will drown. Yeah. In the rainforest and especially in the flat peat swamp forest, you need a lot of adaptations to keep yourself out of the water. Here are some of those orchids, those long leaves. This could be some lily or some orchid. Ah, they are flowers. Ooh. Wait. Good that there are no crocodiles here. What are those flowers? No orchid, despite the crazy looking flower. This is some sort of liliaceae, or no, some related family. Could even be some pandanus relative. Crazy. Yeah, funny stuff to see everywhere. Just no fruits. Here the area is dominated by a different species of fern. Species that was dominating previously is being suffocated here, just a couple leaves sticking out, some surviving near the trees. What's the reason this area is being dominated by a different fern? I cannot tell you. Again, the trees very poor in biodiversity. There was a heavy rainstorm about 1.5 hours ago, and there are more of them brooding around. Wonder, well, during the last one I find somewhere to hide. I wonder how it's going to be now, with no buildings around me for miles and miles. Fruits on the ground. Well, not on the ground, but on the planks. And not fruits, but pieces of fruits. Looks like somebody extracted the seeds. Or maybe the aerials. Well, you have the thick rind, you have the aerials. No, they extracted the seeds. That would speak for birds instead of monkeys. Birds or squirrels or some other rodents. Cannot see where those fruits come from. Also, they are unripe. So this is seed predation, not what the tree has in mind. But yeah, at least they found some fruits. Here this palm, I think this is the red snake fruit or red salak. You can see a small rotten inflorescence down there. Yeah, usually when I'm around Kuching, those are in season and I harvest them here and there. They are red, they are sour, they look like a snake fruit. Yeah. And of course, the palms have no stem or just a very short stem. They are basically palms which are shrubs, or you could call them, well, not herbs because they are perennial and quite tough, but definitely not trees like most palms. But yeah, would be nice if they were in season, but nope. Some nice old tree, over 1.5 meters thick. Why did they leave it? From the leaves it could be a durian, but it could also be 100 other things. We're in the most biodiverse place in the formerly most biodiverse place in the world. So, yeah. Random trees left standing. This one and this with the forked stem next to it. But everything else around was locked. Don't ask me why they left just those standing. And again, do I need to repeat it? No fruits.